Very well, 8th of November, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. There is some stuff to go through, of course. We'll start with Wendy Morton. She's the former chief whip and has now referred her allegation of bullying by Gavin Williamson to the parliamentary watchdog, with more allegations coming out about Gavin Williamson, including Williamson telling an ex-official to jump out of a window and a senior civil servant to slit their own throat whilst he was Defence Secretary. Now, as I said before, Sunak knew about these, or he knew at least about Morton. Now, of course, Gavin Williamson has come out and denied it all, although we have read the text messages. They're all over Twitter, and so it's a very weird defence. But if Sunak did know, and he did know, then Williamson has to go. But what does that say about our government? It says the same as it's said for the past however many years, that bullying isn't important to them. And I mean, some of this stuff with Williamson telling someone to jump out of a window, or like jump out of a window and slit your own throat, are two very different things. Jump out of a window suggests to me you're telling someone to go fuck themselves. Slit your own throat is not a different term for going to go fuck yourself. I've said in comedy nights to comedians, if they overrun, I'll chuck you out of a window. You know, it's as a joke. But I've never told anyone to go slit their own fucking throat. There's a level of difference, isn't there? Over at COP27, Sunak has confirmed that the UK will triple its funding to help nations adapt to the impact of climate change. We're at a point where we're not even looking at reversing. It's just, right, we're going to give you some money and you learn to deal with what we've done to the planet. What he's said is that it will be at least £11.6 billion between 21-22 and 25-26. Now, yesterday I think it was, there was the news that US, Australia, Canada, UK had been nowhere near the amount of money that they should be giving for their fair share, because, and it's quite right really, the developed countries are the countries that have put in most of the damage to the planet. Of course it is. You're not going to find much carbon emissions in a small village in Togo, you know, comparative to even a small village in the UK. So you what the carbon difference, cars, everything else, flights, travel, farming, everything else. So it is right that those who have done or helped to cause the majority of the damage do put their old hands in their pockets. But will we? Like, he says it, but as we've seen with Department of Work and Pensions, giving out benefits and everything else, although we say we're going to do something, our government isn't the speediest when it comes to actually doing something. So I would be very, very surprised if this figure of 11.6 billion actually happens. I reckon it will happen, but over like 20 years, and not the 5 that suggest 4 they're suggesting here. The head teachers union have said that many schools in England are considering cutting teachers or teaching hours to save money. And so this is 66% of head teachers that were surveyed said that they will have to make either teaching assistants redundant or cut hours, with 50% saying they would have to do the same for teachers. So, I mean, we already got, I mean, like I remember when I was in primary school, you had maybe 20 students. altogether. I think now you're looking at average of 30 students, where you're removing teachers, so teachers are going to have to do even more. Already teachers are planning on putting a strike for pay, and there just isn't the money. If schools are there going, right, well, we're going to have to cut people, you can go and march all you like, but if there isn't the money there just simply isn't the money there. The reason there isn't the money there is continual cuts, because school funding has increased though with years of cuts, mixed with costs of pay and the rise in energy prices. You increase the funding and it doesn't matter because it doesn't affect anything. So it's the same with when you always talk about things like austerity and whatnot. It's a simple way that I think more people should ask politicians simple mathematics. What is minus 1 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 plus 2? You're still deep in the minus at that point. It don't matter. You can say, oh well, actually I think you'll find we have put in 2. We have added 2. Never before has 2 been added. We have increased it more than it's ever been increased again. They're going, but if you got all the minuses, you're still in the minus. That's how numbers work. It goes all with the when Boris Johnson was running for Prime Minister, and the talk of adding 20,000 police, or you cut 21,000. That means if you add 20,000 police, you're still minus. That is literally how numbers work, but you could never pin it on them, because they're like fucking goo, these people. So you can't nail them to a wall because they just slip away. Over in the US, you've got the US midterms happening, voting today, electing new members of Congress. Both houses at the moment are controlled by the Democrats, but the Republicans do not need many seats for both to change. They are not far away. It's not a massive majority for the Democrats. If Republicans do happen to get the seats required, you can expect them to do things like close the investigation on the January 6th US Capitol attacks, because that's the type of thing that they're likely to do. The Republican Party over in the US, although was once right-wing and mad, is now right-wing mad and under the thumb of a nutter. That's a difference. They've gone, as we've seen with a lot of Western societies, and frankly, the world. You've got over half of the world under authoritarian rule. You're seeing a rise in hate in the far right. You see over in Italy, you've got the far right ladies just come in. You see over in France with the National Front. Can't be National Front. Le Pen, well, it was Le Pen's party, but I think she's been replaced now. You see the rise in both the left and the right. The idea of centre, they both mock, because you're centre, blah blah blah. Whereas they've gone further and further away. And a valid point, a very intelligent comedian said to me years ago, changed my looking on it, is that it's a circle. And so when you go far, you start there, you got the centre. And I'm not at any point saying that the centre's good, I'm just saying that the centre is the place where the most people are. That's just how it is. So you have the left and the right going along, and then when they get more far left and far right, they meet back again. That's what it is. There's subtle differences between the two, but not really their arguments with freedom and speech and everything else, their ability to bend over and listen to horse shit and accept it all. It's all, they're there. It is two sides of the same coin in that aspect. What else have we got? More news on cuts, so fun. The England national parks are facing a funding crisis, forcing them to make plans to close visiting centres, make park rangers redundant, stop maintaining paths altogether, and other cuts. So funding has fallen 40% in real terms. Now, real terms, you'll hear that. You'll probably hear that up and down the world quite a lot. Real terms is what the money's actually worth when you take inflation into account and everything. So, prime example is say 100 grand from say 1930 to 100 grand say 2015, although it's the same figure, the value is completely different. So 100 grand in 1930 comparative to 100 grand in 2015, 100 grand in 1930s is around 5 mil in 2015, and so this is where you take into account real cuts. So they've had a 40% real term cuts over 10 years, which is now the grants are expected to flatline until at least 2025, meaning that they have to find parks have to find £16 billion worth of cuts in the next 3 years, and with 40% of already in funding falling, which is cuts. So you put that in, having to find more cuts. I do not believe that the Tories like anything that is British. Our parks, the NHS, the BBC, anything that we could have pride in, the Tories do not like and have actively worked to get rid of. On the plus side, though, Scotland and Wales are planning on more parks. So it's going better for Scotland and Wales, much worse for England. A new survey has found that more than half of black people stopped and searched by police were left with feelings of humiliation or embarrassment. Also showed a level of trust in police among black people as a whole was 46%. White people was 64%, with only 35% of black Caribbean people saying that they had confidence. Now, you just have to look at the difference between their 46% for black people with white people at 64%. There is going to be a reason for that, isn't there? It's going to be because how many white people comparative to black people have had regular interactions with police because of things like stop and search. Black people, of course, are 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched, and black people are not 7 times more likely to have committed a crime. Police chiefs are unable to explain why that number is where it is, and myself, I'm willing to put my hand up and come out with an answer, because I think I've got it. I think it's racism, but it could be anything. Who knows? Who truly knows? It's racism. That's the reason. That is it. But it could be any. We do not know. But it could be any reason. It's racism, but it could be anything. Absolutely, it's racism, but it could be anything. Could be anything. Across all ethnicities, 49% of people who had been stopped and searched had significantly less trust in police. 65% for those who had not. Again, if you have interactions with police where it's stop and search, like, you're going to have more trust in the police if the only time you ever deal with the police is like you get burgled, you call the police and they come in good time. That's the only time. I mean, the only dealings I've really had for police is I once walked in on people trying to burgle the flat that I was living in at the time. And they ended up running past me after telling me that they were police. I did not believe them. So I ended up calling the police. They came very quickly. They had a search, asked some questions. They didn't catch the people. But, I mean, it was delightful. But I also read and realise everything that the police also do, and so I don't trust them at all. The majority of stop and searches, of course, do not find anything, and black people in this country are found to be more worried about crime and feel less protected by our law enforcement, which shows that our law enforcement is failing. Because black people, as well as Asian people, Chinese people, anyone in this country is part of this country and should feel part of this country. And if you do not feel that the law enforcement is there to protect you, the law enforcement is failing. It's simple. Couple more news and then we're done. 2 more. Over in Poland, the governing party's leader has claimed that excessive drinking by young women was to blame for Poland's low birth rates. He was, of course, denounced by opposition. Oh, there's a funeral going on outside with a drum. Hopefully you can't hear that too much. Saying over in Poland, the governing party's leader has claimed that excessive drinking by young women was to blame for Poland's low birth rate. Of course, he was denounced by opposition politicians and female celebrities in Poland. He claimed that to become an alcoholic for a man, you had to drink excessively for 20 years. As a woman, only 2 years, which isn't science. You do wonder why. I mean, he's like a 71-year-old man who's never had kids himself, so obviously he was surrounded by a lot of drunk women or something. But you think how we need to do something about people's views as they age. I am suggesting wipe them out, but also don't take that as face value, because I want the world to go. So, but the reason over in Poland, critics have said that the reason for the lower birth rate, which is 1.3 children per woman, which is below the EU average and below the number needed to grow the new generation. And so critics have argued that it's a mixture of financial and fears over the abortion restrictions that have been placed in Poland. So if you take away women's freedoms, you make women feel like they're nothing more than just there's some form of fucking fleshy Tupperware, just for a man's seed to stay warm over the winter. Then potentially women aren't going to want to have kids, and you have to be able to afford them as well. This is something around the world. We have lower birth rates in many countries, including this country here. So you have an aging population. It's always a point if you want to know how to stop China, you wait, because their aging population, they're going to have a 1 billion people army with the average age of 65. It's going to be being attacked by people wanting to hand you a Werther's original. But this is if women are more than just your incubators. And this idea that women drink so they don't want to get laid. No, drink is where most of the mistakes happen. There are too many people in this world who are alive because of drink. the idea that a woman drinking would mean that she would never get pregnant. It will add to the chances of them getting pregnant, not fucking lower. Finally, a new report by the Global Brotherhood Initiative says boys should be encouraged to ignore gender stereotypes and share their emotions. So one of the report's authors, David Bartlett, said how boys and men behave makes an enormous difference to the lives of girls and women and individuals of all gender identities in all areas of their lives. Boys are important for a change in sexual harassment, gender-based violence, pay gaps, many other things. Because it's a thing, Beyonce lied to you all. Who runs the world isn't girls. Who runs the world is men. And so if you want a fundamental change in the world, men have to be there to push it forward. Not the only ones, they're not the most important part or anything you want to fucking claim, but they do seemingly own everything. So maybe, yes, sexual harassment is a male issue because it's the men doing it. Over in Syria, when they're bombing everyone, you don't say, this is a civilian issue. No, you blame the people who are doing the bombing. You don't turn around and say that, look at those civilians wearing their fucking bomb me shoes. Of course they want to be bombed. You don't do that. You should always put the burden on the people who are doing it. You don't turn around to women and say, this is what you should do. You have to turn around to men and to boys and let them see the error of their ways, let them speak more about their emotions. It's not something that I personally do, but I'm broken, so you're not going to change me in that aspect, but hopefully younger people, you will do. Right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you tomorrow.